Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Good morning and welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right.
I'm Paul Lopez.
And I am Sabrina Daly.
Yes, we have Sabrina on set with us on this beautiful Thursday morning.
I know. It's so good to be here, Paul. I am so excited to be with you guys bright and early this Thursday morning.
Yes, and you look bright this morning.
Just in case I wasn't Paul, I made sure to wear bright colors because it's early in the morning, so you have to help everyone wake up, right?
I love it. I love the yellow. I'll tell you, you look really nice.
Thank you.
It's great to have you on. It's great to have your smile on.
Thank you, Paul. Stop it. Don't stop it. Don't stop it.
And I'm sure that throughout this entire show, the viewers will feel warmed and welcomed with you on set. You know, Sabrina, we didn't mention it yesterday, but there's been some slight changes yesterday with me being on set with John. Then, of course, today with you being on set with me. And the change is simply because right now, I hate to bring somber news early in the morning, but April, our co-host, she was involved in an accident, a traffic accident, where she received some injuries. So she was in Belmopan, and I'll just say that she was in an accident, and she received some injuries, and as a result, she's had to take some time off to recover from those injuries. As I understand it, she had to seek medical attention to get some bandages and some stitches. But as I was told that she's doing fine. Yeah. She's recovering. But we only make mention of this one because April's not here and people are asking, where is April? We have some guests, yesterday. Where April them on? And then, of course, today they may also be asking. And so we want to say to you, April, who I'm sure if you're up this morning, because she may be taking that extra 2 hours to sleep, so she doesn't have to be here. Yes. But we want to say to you, April, that our thoughts and our prayers are with you this morning. And we want to ask our viewers, those loyal supporters, to lift April up in prayer this morning, to lift her up in thoughts, because it's not only about the injuries that she may have sustained that we're thinking about her to recover from, but even the trauma of being involved in a traffic accident, even that in and of itself takes some recovery. And so it means that she needs some time. And we here understand that, because at the end of the day, we're all family. We bring this morning show to you every single day, but we care about each other. We love each other. We appreciate each other. And we want to make sure that we put our well-beings ahead of everything else. So, April, we love you. We miss you so much. And we hope you get better soon so that you could be back on set with us. Don't take too long.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, not take too long.
Let's be honest. I am not really a morning person. I'm the face for the night.
You
I'm an owl.
Imagine.
So April, we definitely want you back on set. And there's no place like you being rightfly here in your chair as well. So.
But in the meantime.
I'll keep it warm.
You'll keep it warm. We actually, like you said, and I didn't even think about that. We have our night person.
Yeah, we have an owl here
on
doing
the morning
shift.
How has this morning been going for
I
you?
won't lie, Paul. I slept through my alarm. I'm not used to that alarm. I'm not used to a 6:30, preparing for a 6:30 or a 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm more a 6 o'clock p.m. person.
Well, this is the time, Sabrina, when a lot of people are getting up.
And it was really beautiful. I will say that. I'm not used to driving so early in the morning. But I got to see, you know, early morning joggers, and especially in the month of January, that's where you see people really taking on their New Year's resolutions. And that was really nice to see more people on the road doing exercising. Of course, there are the cyclists on the road as well. So that was really nice, kind of watching the sunrise. So that was really neat.
While right now a lot of people are getting up and turning on their television, of course, we have to prepare an hour or 2 hours before that to be on the television. But speaking about the beauty and the beauty of the morning, what about the beauty of Miss Universe Belize?
No, oh my goodness,
oh my
Paul.
Gosh.
So I turned on the prelims last night, and I'll be totally honest with you. I turned it on when it was finished, but I skipped all the way to find Miss Belize. That was the only person I wanted to see. I wanted to see her intro. I wanted to see the swimsuit segment, as well as the gorgeous evening gown that she wore. Paul, did you see that dress?
Listen, right? I don't know which I was most impressed about. If it was the intro, which I feel was well executed. If it was the swimwear, which you have to appreciate the cape that she had on. I can't remember the name of the artist. It's the same.
So I was told that
Kelsey
Johnson was the artist, a local artist here in Belize.
She's the same one that did the Belize sign. That's what we famously know.
And several murals as well.
Of course, she has done a lot of art pieces. So she's behind that beautiful cape, which shows off the blue hole, Belize, the map, the flag. I think that's St. Antoinette as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Several
it's one of the
Belize.
So that's beautiful, and I was like blown away by that cape. But then they got to the evening gown.
Yeah, Paul, I'm not gonna lie.
I said, man,
it was the gown for me.
Yeah.
It was the gown.
But look how she rocks that. Woo!
Yes.
Ashley, and then bam.
Looking
the gown.
so
Let's just take
elegant.
a moment to appreciate that.
That was beautiful.
That's an amazing gold shimmery gown. I love what's like the parts that are falling off of it. Just look at that. And I think she rocked that so well. I noticed that a lot of the contestants, several of them, they had an issue, or they were challenged with taking that one step down.
Yes.
You know, but Ashley did that so well.
Our girl did that.
I was concerned for a few of the contestants because it seemed as if they almost wanted to trip over. Like, please not trip over a live YouTube stream where hundreds of thousands of people are watching. But they all seem to do well.
I just want to know why the step.
Well,
I don't know if that's
as I understand it, it's a part of the challenge.
It's like the Olympics of pageantry, so you have to make something difficult, right? So there's one single step.
As if everything else is not already difficult.
Yes.
And then, of course, I think it was at 9 p.m. or thereabout, they began displaying the national costumes. We've seen this. I believe we've talked about it here on set, but last night she got an opportunity to display the national costume on the world stage. And so there that is the national costume, of course, representing the jaguar, right? And representing the region's only jaguar reserve, which is right here in Belize. What I like about this, and I saw Ashley do some shots on her social media page where she was, they were preparing her in this costume. And if you don't know, the moon actually lights up.
Yes, it glows.
So there's some glow in the moon, and I think that it's just the small details that makes these types of things stand out. And then, of course, the forest in the background representing the lush forest and natural reserve that we as Belizeans are so prideful to call our own. And then that beautiful animal of a jaguar, you know what? I couldn't be more happier.
No, I have to agree. I'm definitely very, very proud of Ashley Lightburn. She represented us absolutely well on that stage last night. And I look forward to the official competition that continues this Saturday, I believe.
It's this Saturday.
This Saturday.
And what we know, I'm rather, I'll say, because you see me so geeked out, you'd probably think, oh, Paul's a huge pageant fan.
Yeah.
I'm not.
You're not.
I'm a Belize fan. And wherever Belize is being represented, I'm there to show support. And so I don't know all about the ins and outs of pageantry. I might almost admit, in fact, let me not admit that on live television. I'll just say that wherever Belize is being represented, I'm there to show my support. And Ashley is doing an amazing job. And so I want to encourage her this morning. The semifinals is on Saturday night for those who want to tune in. It's on Saturday night, and I believe, I'm not sure where it will be streamed. I will have to get details on that.
No, I believe it is on the Miss Universe,
on the same Miss Universe
YouTube page
YouTube
as well.
Page, right? And as I understand it, I preface this comment as I understand it, that is where they'll choose the top 16.
Yes.
Right? So all that has been done and all that has been said last night will be judged, and from that they'll choose 16 women, and they will compete on Saturday night in the semifinals. And I believe it's in the same night the semifinals and the finals will take place. So we wish Ashley all the best, and we say no matter what standings you make on Saturday night, we're still all proud of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so that's one thing that has Belize buzzing yesterday, that had Belize buzzing last night, and we're still talking about it. I looked over my social media page early this morning, and that's something we're still talking about. Another thing, another on the bright side, another bright story that we saw coming out of San Pedro yesterday. We saw that the announcement of their hospital. So San Pedro, the island of San Pedro, San Pedranos, they're finally getting their state-of-the-art general hospital. So I was in San Pedro yesterday for the signing of an MOU between the government of Belize and the Embassy of China, Taiwan, the Republic of China, Taiwan. It's a cooperation agreement where Taiwan, the government of Taiwan, has agreed to grant Belize the funds for the construction of this hospital. This is a $33 million state-of-the-art hospital. Now it's a big deal because as the area representative for Belize Rural South, which San Pedro, the Ambergris Key falls under, Andre Perez made mention yesterday. There was a situation, it's just only one example, of a pregnant woman who needed urgent and critical care that the San Pedro, the existing San Pedro Polyclinic was not able to offer. So she had to be rushed to the Carl Huchner Memorial Hospital, which is mainland. It takes at least 15 to 20 minutes to fly from San Pedro to Belize City. And it was while she was boarding that airplane, that she lost her life. It's one of those situations that highlights the need for this type or this level of care on the island of San Pedro. And it highlights the importance of yesterday's signing and the need for construction on this hospital to begin yesterday. We've seen cases where people are shot, where people are stabbed, where we receive some major external injuries. and you have to be rushed. Even during COVID, we saw where critical COVID patients were not able to receive the care that they so desperately needed on the island of San Pedro, and they had to be rushed to the KHMH. And so, according to the Prime Minister, they're expecting that groundbreaking will take place in March of this year, and that the hospital will be completed within a period of 2 years. So that's just a caveat to say that that's right before the next general elections. It's not to politicize anything, but it's to say that it's right before the next general election. But politics aside, I think
good news.
Whether you're red or whether you're blue, this is good news.
And it benefits everyone.
And it will benefit everyone, because when you enter a hospital, they don't ask you for your voter's ID or for you to tell them which party did you vote for. They're simply giving you the care you need. And then the Minister of Health, of Kevin Bernard, of course, have committed to staffing providing or making available the adequate staffing for this hospital. So we want to say congratulations to the islanders. We want to say congratulations to the government of Belize, and a huge thank you to the government of Taiwan for seeing this need and for partnering with the government of Belize in this initiative. So Sabrina, forgive me, 2 amazing stories coming out of last night's news and last night's events.
That's right.
But what we want to do right now, Sabrina, is we want to move into the eye-opener. We've been motivating people all morning, talking about what Belize is doing outside. We're talking about what was happening here in Belize. But we want to motivate people with the eye-opener. And this eye-opener, as we do every morning, is taken from dailyom.com. Take it away, Sabrina.
All right, so this is the principle of cause and effect in the truth that allows us to better ourselves and the world around us. All motive and action affects the cosmos in some way. The principle of cause and effect is the truth that allows us to change ourselves and the world around us for the better. However, this same universal law is also at work when change is not at the forefront of our minds. Our intentions flow forever outward in the form of energy, affecting both the people closest to us and billions of individuals we will likely never meet. For that reason, we should strive always to speak, think, and behave with great thoughtfulness and compassion. The virtues we choose to embody can inspire joy and integrity in the lives of countless people, whether we touch their existence directly or not. Nothing you do, however minor or mundane, is ever exempt from the rules of cause and effect. From the moment of your birth, you have served as an agent of change, setting forces beyond your comprehension into motion across the surface of the earth and beyond. You can exert conscious control over the transformative energy simply by examining your intentions and endeavoring always to promote peace, positive energy, and passion in your ideas and actions. While you may never fully comprehend the extent of your purposefully heartfelt influence, you can rest assured that it will be universally felt.
What's your thoughts?
Oh my goodness. Paul, I just want to say, all through this quote, I was thinking of what has been, I want to believe, my drive for perhaps the past 5 years, and that has been fulfilling what I believe could possibly be my purpose, right? And I think that's something that we should always be striving for, and it gives us a sense of living fulfilled. So in this, I believe that it made me think about what has been my goal for the past year since being here at Channel 5, and that has been searching for meaningful stories, for good news stories, and it made me think of on the bright side. And in a lot of ways, I think On the Bright Side really highlights what this is about. And it's telling the stories of people, kind of highlighting what are the small goods that are happening, you know. So that's what this passage really made me think of, that any small good thing that you do can affect change in such a big way if we all do it.
You know, and I appreciate that you brought up Bright Side, because you have thousands of people home and abroad watching that, people that you've never met, people you probably will never meet in your lifetime that are being impacted by that. And imagine you did not put that energy out into the universe, what would have become of those persons if they didn't get that small shimmer of light in their lives. For me, and I'll only talk briefly, I'm reminded that people are always watching, whether we know it or not. You know, we often walk through our days thinking, nobody is watching, nobody notices me, nobody recognizes me. But you would be amazed to know that there are people watching you.
Yeah.
There are people looking up to you. There are people influenced by you and by your behaviors, by your reaction. And the more you put peace, love, positivity into the universe, more of that energy, the more you create a better world around you and around your space.
And that's essentially the principle of cause and effect. I mean, we were talking about how things, you do one thing and it has the result of another. And I think that's essentially what Brightside does. But not only that, that's what we strive to have our viewers, you know, kind of react in that way. You see these good stories and it inspires you to want to do the same.
So what we're going to do is we're going to get to the bright side of the weather this morning, and let's see if they'll bring some positive energy our way. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Crystal. How are you this morning?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, so we're looking for some news on the weather. So what can you tell us this morning about the general situation?
Okay, mainly fair conditions will prevail today with an increase in shower activity expected for tonight.
And in our 24-hour forecast?
Okay, sunny with a few cloudy spells today, becoming cloudy at times tonight. Then showers will be isolated during the day with a few showers and isolated thunderstorms developing mostly over southern and coastal areas late tonight.
So let's talk a bit about those temperatures.
Right. For the highs for today will be 84 along the coast, 86 inland, and then 74 in the mountains. And then for tonight, 74 along the coast, 68 inland, and then 64 in the hills.
And our outlook?
Right. Generally cloudy with a few showers and isolated thunderstorms, affecting mostly central and southern areas on Friday. And then activity will gradually decrease on Friday night over most places, but linger over southern coastal areas.
Okay. Are there any advisories, watches, or warnings out for our area today?
No, it's all good for today.
All right.
Nice.
Well, Crystal, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. So there we
All
have
right.
it.
Sounds
Some
like
showers.
we can expect some good weather at least today.
Yeah, we can expect some good weather, a bit of showers tonight going into the weekend. But, Sabrina, we have to get started with our show. And
Before that, though, Paul,
right ahead.
I do want to make a slight request to our viewers. I believe we did mention it yesterday on our show. We have a little girl that was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 11. Unfortunately, her situation is terminal. This is Shanika Pollard, such a beautiful little girl. And it's such sad news to hear children getting sick. Of course, sickness on its own is very sad, but hearing children, it's never, never easy.
What's even more unfortunate about this situation, as I learned yesterday, and it broke my heart, is that Shanika actually found out that she had cancer after falling through a manhole here in Belize City. And so when she fell through that manhole, she had to go and receive treatment. And it is during that treatment that the health experts discovered that Shanika had this tumor. And unfortunately, now she is in a critical condition. There are a lot of thoughts and prayers going her way. The outlook isn't too good for her, but we believe that miracles can happen and that anything is possible. And so you out there, you can continue to send your prayers and your thoughts.
Yes, and now is the time for all the prayer warriors to start working. You know, we send our thoughts, our prayers with Shanika, with her mom, her dad, her family. This time is obviously not easy, but our thoughts and prayers are with you, and we are hoping to hear some good news. Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, we do want to get into our show for this morning, and we have 3 segments lined up for you guys, our viewers, and it's 3 amazing segments. In our first segment, do you want to know all about the statistics when it comes to the economy, when it comes to what October 2020, what 2022 looked like in terms of inflation, the cost of goods, employment, labor force? Well, we have members from the Statistical Institute of Belize, and they will be joining us to talk about the October 2022 labor force survey and the third quarter 2022 GDP results and much more.
Of course, we did touch on that in last night's newscast, but this will be a more detailed discussion where we get to really dig deeper into the conversation. I think it will be definitely a great segment. But we will be going into as well, Pastor Matt Carricker will be joining us to talk about the Giving Christianity Back to Agape Love, a new paradigm for being church together.
Okay, so we're taking the show to church.
Yes, we are going to church today.
All right, as long as you could take up some offerings from these guys in here and walk away with it, I'm fine with that. And in our final conversation, we have founder and host of 5 Minutes with D, and she will be joining us to talk about her new season of her show. 5 Minutes with D is hosted by a young, budding Belizean entrepreneur with amazing talent and great enthusiasm. And so we will be hearing from her this morning on set. That's Diani Janae. So you don't want to miss that one. Before we get into all that, of course, we're going to take our first break and we'll be right back. So stay tuned.
Your life just got a lot less complicated with Belize Bank Contactless MasterCard Debit Card. Introducing our Standard Debit and MasterCard Platinum Debit Cards. Now you can make purchases anywhere MasterCard is accepted with one tap, pay and go. Your contactless card never has to leave your hands, especially in these times. And your card is embedded with multiple layers of security. Platinum card holders get to enjoy extra benefits like price protection, purchase protection, trip inconvenience, and luggage protection, just to name a few. Start enjoying a cashless lifestyle today with the Belize Bank.
We know that previous government year after year was talking about building the Hanover Bridge, and it was never done. And even the design that was being done was they were over designing for what we need in Belize. And the previous design was costing about $60 million. What Minister Espat and his team did along with engineer, with Mr. Moody, they look at locally and M&M Engineering, I met with Mr. Matos, and they are the ones that designed this bridge. They are the ones that are building all the columns, everything. The entire bridge is built here. And I find that incredible, and I find it exciting, I find it amazing that we have the people that can do these things. And because of them doing that, this bridge is going to cost about a little over $30 million. So we're saving the Belizean people almost $30 million, almost 50% of that. And I think I find that truly remarkable, and more people should be aware. I walked up the ramp present on the southern side, and it gives you a fantastic view, and it's going to go even higher. So again, I'm very pleased with the work that Minister Spat was doing. I'm told they're spending close to about $450,000 for this work, and obviously you could see that there's great value for money. This is what we need to do more in the city, especially in the south side of Belize City, where we have limited playgrounds. More of this sort of young people, instead of hanging out on the streets, they can come out here to play. I'm told they're going to be having bleachers here, they're going to put lights, and hopefully they're going to have 2 areas where they can sell food, concession stands, that the money from there can be used to be able to help with the upkeep of this. We must big up Minister Mala for coming up with this idea, having the vision on how he can transform Berger Field. This is what our government is all about, to be able to transform some of these areas, find ways how we can transform the lives of our young people, not only through education, but also sports. Sports plays an integral role in the development of our young people. I mean, I remember growing up playing football. I used to play football every weekend, every week, and during the week practicing, going to the villages for football games and so forth.
Smart introduces Real Unlimited Postpaid Plans, providing customers with unlimited talk, unlimited text, and unlimited data. Now that's a real great deal. With Smart Plus, Share 1 and 2, and Enterprise 1 and 2 plans, you can talk as much as you want, text as much as you want, and for the first time ever in Belize, you can enjoy unlimited data with your postpaid plan. So come in and sign up for an unlimited postpaid plan and enjoy limitless possibilities. In addition, other plans such as the Flex Junior, Choice, and Select have been boosted with a lot more talk, text, and data, providing you with the best value for your budget. Be unlimited with Smart. It's time to power your dollar with Smart.
Are you looking for low-cost television advertising? Have we got a deal for you? Advertise on Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds is one of the most effective methods for introducing yourself and your business to the community. Use our Daily Classifieds to recruit employees, promote specials, promote your products or services, promote a business opportunity, increase traffic to your website, and advertise items you have for sale. Let us help you to save valuable time and money. Call us today at 280-0013 or visit us at our offices on Coney Drive to discuss how we can help your business grow affordably. Channel 5's Daily Classifieds. Advertise today.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Marian Ali, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 Belize teams do whatever it takes. Go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 Belize on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Because news is now everywhere, all the time. And so are we.
All right, and welcome back. As we said right before the break, we have SIB joining us, and they had their first press conference for 2023 yesterday here in Belize City. And so we are joined in studio by Diana Castillo Trejo, and she is the Acting Director General at SIB. And also joining us via Zoom, we have none other than Tanisha Chavarria, and she's the Acting Manager of our Census and Surveys Department. Very important department for Belize and for what's going on right now. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
All right, and so we want to kick off the conversation right away. Just basically to jump into it and talk about what yesterday's press conference and presentation focused on. Just a general overview of what we presented yesterday.
Okay, good morning and thanks for having us. Yesterday we did, as you said, our first press conference of the year, and we were presenting statistics that we completed at the end of 2022.
Okay.
So we presented the unemployment rate for October 2022. We presented an unemployment rate of 5%. It's rather low, so there were a lot of improvements that we saw within the labor market that we reported on. In terms of the economy, we presented the third quarter gross domestic product statistics, and for the third quarter, what we saw was that the economy grew by 12.8%. And there were strong performances in several of the industries and the secondary and tertiary sector that we also reported on. And then we shared inflation rate statistics up to the month of November. And for the first 11 months, that's practically all of 2022, what we saw was on average inflation was at 6.2%. As you may very well know, food and fuel were the two main things that were driving that. And then we also shared our merchandise trade statistics. And again, for the first 11 months of the year, imports were somewhere around $2.something billion. We saw exports of over $400 million. There were increases of both of those, and we went into the details of those. So that was what we presented yesterday.
Let's talk a bit about the labor force survey. We'll begin there, and I'm interested in knowing what district in Belize showed the highest unemployment rate and what that rate is.
Okay, the highest unemployment rate was in the Stand Creek district. That was 7.8%. We saw the lowest in the Belize district, in the Cayo district, that was 3.5%.
And when this percentage is taken from what number? Is there like an overall figure of the labor force in the Stand Creek district per se?
Yes, so for the country and district by district, that's how the unemployment rate is calculated. Yeah. You have the number of persons who are unemployed, and you have that as a percentage of all the persons who are a part of the labor force.
What do we consider as youth when we do surveys on youth and unemployment? What's the age range?
We're looking at persons aged 14 to 24. Okay. Now we know that the mandatory age for schooling there's recently been an approval to increase that. That should be coming into effect later this year. So we may have to make some adjustments to that. But as of right now, we are looking at persons who are 14 who can work, who don't necessarily have to be in school, up to the age of 24 for youth unemployment.
Okay, and so you're saying that at this point, from 14 to 24, you are by law allowed to work?
Well, as of the age of 14, persons are legally allowed to work. That's correct.
To work.
Yes.
Correct. And what are we seeing in terms of the unemployment rate among youths, especially within that range?
Okay, I will ask Ms. Chavarria to take that one from me.
Go right ahead.
Hi, good morning, thanks. So I'm here to answer all things LFS and what we're seeing with the youth when compared to the previous labor force, which was in September 2021, the youth unemployment rate was at 18.6%. And for the last round of the LFS, which is October 2022, it went down to 12%. So this is primarily due to the youths exiting the labor force. What that means is that they are available to work, they want to work, but perhaps they stop looking for work. And that continues to attribute to the jobs that they're not getting when compared to other age groups.
So do we factor in the labor force persons that are looking for work as well? Is that something we consider?
Yes, we have, and we recently adopted some more strict criteria of what would constitute a person who is unemployed. Okay. And there are basically three things. The person would not be working, they would be available to start work within the reference period, and they would be looking for work. So if any of those criteria are not met, and for the most part, persons who maybe are not working, they might still want to work, but they're not looking for work, that's the criteria that they miss. They just stop looking sometimes.
Your statistic provided that 35% of the population was informally employed. What do you define that to be?
Okay, Ms. Chavaria?
Yeah, Ms. Chavaria.
We have two definitions for persons that are in informal employment. If you are self-employed, we would consider you in informal employment if your business is not registered in the Belize Company Registry or with the Social Security. And if you are a paid employee, then we would consider you in informal employment if you or your employer are not contributing to Social Security.
So you're saying that if the business is registered, it's considered informal employment?
If it's not registered.
If it's not registered? Mm-hmm. How do you guys go about collecting that data if it's not registered?
We would directly ask this to the respondent when we interview them at their household. And so they would reply to us if they are self-employed. They would let us know if their business is registered, and if they are in paid employment, we ask them if they contribute to Social Security or if their employer does.
Okay.
You know, it's me just looking on this 35.3% is a huge chunk of the estimated labor force, because this is out of the estimated labor force, right? So even if you're in informal trade, you're still a part of the estimated labor force.
Yes, so as long as we can determine that a person has been engaged in some kind of paid activity that would constitute employment, and there's a definition for that, then the person would be a part of the labor force and they would be a part of the employed section of the labor force. So that informal 35% is actually 35% of all employed persons. And it's a big number, but it represents a considerable reduction from a year prior, where we had about between 40-45% of employed persons were informally employed.
Yeah, so I know that that one of the initiatives that the current administration has been taking, they've been working a lot with these MSMEs, these small businesses, to kind of get them more exposed and give them more information as to how they can register their businesses. Right. So perhaps that has taken a positive effect on decreasing this number of persons that are informally employed. However, the number remains high. One of the interesting things coming out again out of the labor force survey is that Belizeans are working longer hours?
That's correct. We're seeing a general trend towards more persons being employed in the formal employment sector, and two, less persons being underemployed. We use a time-related measure of underemployment. So if persons work less than 35 hours, but they would want to work more hours, they're considered underemployed. So we're seeing fewer persons being underemployed. So it's telling us that there's a trend towards more full-time employment and more formal employment. And we see that both in the hours worked. So on average, the hours worked went up from about 38 a year prior to about 43 hours per week on average. And we also are seeing it in the average income. There was about $180 increase in the average monthly income. So those things are telling us that there seems to be a sort of shift away from that informal underemployment type of job towards more, perhaps more stable, more full-time, more formal employment.
Added to that, I noticed that you guys even had a breakdown of the average national monthly income.
Yes.
Could you add to that as well?
Okay, Tanisha, could you take that?
Sure. Let me find that breakdown.
Yeah. You got it? While you got it? All right, so
yeah, so in informal employment,
yeah.
The average monthly income is $1,031, and then in formal employment, persons are earning more at $1,514. The underemployed, they earn less. Of course, that's usually attributed to them working less hours at $751. And all employed person, this includes everybody in this group, whether they're informal, formally employed or underemployed, they earn an average monthly income of $1,357.
What are we seeing? I think you made mention of it just now. Is this somewhat of an increase from years past?
Yeah. It is an increase from September of 2021, and it's sort of normalizing to where we used to see it prior to COVID. I think just prior to COVID, it was around 1,200 and something. So it's a little bit higher than that. We had seen a drop with all of the adverse effects on the labor market that happened due to COVID. And so we're seeing that sort of returning upwards again.
Okay, so it's sort of a return, a balancing of per se.
Yes.
You know, what I'm seeing here from the labor force survey, the trend seems to be that you have less unemployed, you have people working longer hours, you have people making more than they were making during COVID. You have less people in the informally employed category. This is encouraging.
Yes.
This is encouraging statistics, and I know you're supposed to be neutral on these grounds, but in terms of collecting this data and seeing all of these statistics, what is your view or your overview of how the trends have been taking place?
Well, if you look at not just the labor force, but also our statistics on the economy, what it's telling us is that our economy is apparently a bit more resilient than we thought it was when COVID first hit us, for example. Its recovery has been relatively fast. We saw, for example, in the labor market, when we thought that, or when there was a large number of jobs lost, we saw a lot of people moving into the informal sector. People were creating their own employment. They became self-employed. They started small businesses. And now that there is a return of more formal type jobs, people are apparently shifting back into that, into something more stable, into something where the pay is higher. So it would seem that there is more resilience than maybe we would have thought. And that's evident also in the strong performance that we've seen in the economy. Now, the thing that our people continue to grapple with is high inflation. We haven't seen inflation this high in decades. And that is a worldwide thing. It's not just something that we are experiencing here, but it is something that our people will be feeling the effects of until such time that our inflation rate sort of normalizes back to what we are used to.
Yeah, and I remember the dark clouds looming over us during COVID, the negative outlook, the despair, the thoughts of whether or not we would ever get over this. So way to go, Belize. Way to go, Belizeans, for these encouraging statistics. We want to jump into some stats on the GDP. For those Belizeans who may not be aware what we're talking about when we speak to gross domestic product, because I'll be honest in admitting that for me, at first I didn't understand what we meant when it said GDP, and I looked it up and I still didn't fully get it. So what are we talking about?
Okay, basically what we're talking about is just the value of everything that we produce in the country within a certain period of time. So it's our goods, it's our services, it's the things that we manufacture, it's everything that we produce within our borders in Belize within a period of time. Okay. So that's what we're looking at. And for the third quarter, which is what we presented yesterday, we saw that compared to, and this is how we measure growth, we compare to the same time period in the previous year, compared to the third quarter of the previous year, we produced 12.8% more goods, services, everything than we did in the third quarter of 2021. The value of everything that we produced in the country in that period was $1.176 billion.
Wow.
So, you know, again, very encouraging performance. We saw some declines within the primary sector, within agriculture specifically, and that had to do with some of the challenges that the banana sector is experiencing at this time. But within other sectors, especially within tertiary services, and that makes up the bulk of our economy, we are 2/3 a services economy, there was very strong growth in things like tourism, wholesale and retail trade, transport, you know, so overall the performance was very strong in the third quarter.
Talk a bit about the, if you would, I'm not sure if it falls under this this category, but when we speak to the increased cost of fuel and perhaps how that may have affected some of these sectors in terms of, all right, they're producing more like transport sector, but perhaps they've increased their cost as well, which then adds to the amount of money, you know, that they're bringing in because, well, they've increased their cost.
Okay, when we measure GDP, we measure it in terms of actual output, like actually what is being produced, not necessarily just in terms of money. So if I'm producing the same amount of, you know, whatever item I'm producing this year and next year, but I have to raise my price because of inflation, that doesn't mean I have produced more. I'm producing the same amount. So we measure in terms of the quantities that are produced, and we adjust for rising prices.
So how do you measure what the transport sector produces? What do you look at?
There are certain indicators. We look at things like numbers of persons who are traveling by various modes of transportation. There are other indicators, and I can't say off the top of my head, but you know, there's a number of things that we do look at, and we try for the most part to stick to quantities where we can, because changes in output, changes in how much we produce has to do with quantity, not necessarily with price. Price is affected by inflation. Where we will see the effects of rising fuel prices is when we start looking at the inflation rates, because there we have seen it being one of the, or the main item that has driven inflation in our country for the past 2 years at least.
All right.
So to talk about the positive news, you guys provided information on the total value of goods having an increase of $133 million. What were the sectors that contributed to that?
Okay, so as I said, we saw growth mainly in the secondary and tertiary sector. Secondary would be our manufacturing, construction, electricity generation. Those were the ones where we saw a good deal of growth. And then in tertiary, in services, wholesale and retail trade, transportation, tourism, those were the main ones that we saw, and those are some of our biggest contributors to the economy, the services industries, and also some of our biggest employers.
Yeah, and that's
I noticed the beverage as well.
Yeah, that's
beverage and dairy as one of them.
Secondary sector.
Yes,
correct?
Right. Beverage production would fall within manufacturing, and yes, we did see a considerable increase in beverage production.
When we speak of a quarter, clearly we're talking about 3 months period, correct?
Yes.
So all of these, at least from the labor force and the GDP, well, what we're talking about is all that took place within 3 months.
Well, for the GDP, that is all within 3 months. For the labor force, we were looking specifically at the month of October. So that is labor conditions, employment conditions, specifically during the month of October when we collected that data.
Yeah, and I appreciate that for the tertiary sector, that within those 3 months or the third quarter, we saw that 14.4%, which is $93 million production, right? Which again speaks to recovery in terms of the tourism sector, in terms of transport, etc. But we want to get into what you brought up. You've brought up a couple of times, inflation. When we speak to the consumer price index, are we seeing historic rates of inflation in Belize?
We are seeing inflation that we have not seen since probably sometime in the 1990s. We in Belize are used to inflation somewhere around 1% per year. So when we see inflation of, it's going to be 6-point-something% by the time we finish with all our data for 2022, it's going to be above 6% inflation. That is something way out of the ordinary of what we as Belizean consumers are used to seeing. Just between, because we also track inflation from 1 month to the next, you know, within 30 days, just between the months of October and November, prices went up by 0.6%. It sounds small, but again, we are coming from a context where in some years, entire years, we see inflation of 0.6%. And so it is definitely something that our consumers are feeling, our households are feeling the effects of it, because it is much, much higher than the types of price increases that we are accustomed to seeing.
So how does inflation work?
Basically, because we are an importing economy for most of our commodities, when there is inflation with one of our major trading partners, we import that inflation in. We have seen high rates of inflation with fuel, which we import all our fuel, and with food, because we import a large amount of our food. Even though we produce some, we import a lot, and we also import the inputs that go into producing the food that we produce here. So even those items would have seen increases. Food was one of the items that had the biggest inflation over this period. Wow. Up to the month of November, for the first 11 months of the year, food inflation was over 7%. We're not used to seeing that type of inflation.
So this means that simply that the cost of food has increased.
Right. So if you would have gone to the grocery store to buy food in November of 2021, and everything that you bought cost you $100, and in November of 2022 you go to the store and buy the exact same things, it would have cost you $107. That's how inflation works.
Yeah, I know.
I feel like now more.
My grocery bill, because it increased more.
Because that's what I was thinking. You say it's 7%, that's like $7 out of 100. And I'd almost say, well, I want to feel it, but I know I feel it that much, but that I don't know how I feel. What I'm feeling is 20, 25, almost 30% increase. So like how do you even?
Two things. One, the year to date up to November is sort of an average for the year. Yeah. What we have been seeing throughout 2022 is that we started with moderate inflation for food, and it just started increasing. So by the time we hit the month of November, inflation for food was at 10%. So it has been rising So yes, you are feeling prices of food increasing and increasing at a more rapid rate. That's one. The other thing is it all depends on what you consume, you know. The inflation rate that any household feels or perceives to be affecting them has to do with the combination of goods and services that you buy. There are things where the increase in price has been much higher. There are things that have been more stable. And depending on what you or your household consumes, you will feel it at a different rate.
And then you average that, and that's
and
how
the
you get
CPI, the inflation rate for the country is an average.
Okay, so then let's talk a bit about how some of these inflated products have affected some of the prices in goods. Like, for example, we've seen a significant increase in transport because of the high cost of fuel. Are there any other, well, then you talked about food and then non-alcoholic beverages as well?
Yeah, well, non-alcoholic beverages, we haven't really seen very much change in that, but food items specifically, and we're talking like fresh produce, meats, things that are basic food items, our rice, flour, you know, our grains, all of those things we have seen across the board that they have been increasing in terms of food prices. And we saw initially that inflation hit food directly, or transport prices like fuel prices directly. Now what we're seeing is even things like restaurant services, which would depend on their, you know, what food costs them in terms of their inputs, what butane costs them, what transport costs them. Those things are showing rising prices now. Things like, within transport, not just fuel prices, but things like actual bus fares, sea fares, taxi fares. We're seeing increases of those, and those are sort of the secondary effects of what we saw hit first directly, just fuel prices.
Now, we know that inflation affected the entire country essentially, but are there specific districts that you would be able to say is impacted a little bit less or more?
I don't like to break it down too much by district because it tends to vary from month to month.
Okay.
What we saw for several months is that the Orange Walk district stood out as one, or Orange Walk town, because we collect prices in the municipalities. Orange Walk town stood out as the municipality that had the highest inflation rate for several months. And we saw that Belmopan, while inflation was still high in Belmopan, was at the lower end of it. It's a little below average. And now what we see in November is that Punta Gorda is the one that has the highest. So it tends to move. It fluctuates from month to month. But, you know, overall, we kind of focus on what the overall picture is nationally.
So we're saying Belmopan is the place to live during a rate of high inflation, right?
I don't know if Belmopan residents would say the same about that.
I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
And this, I mean, these are some very important statistics. They tell us a lot about what's happening with our economy. I wanted to ask, though, how do you guys go about collecting data on inflation? And I only asked because do we go to the stores and find out the price? Because I know as well price gouging is an issue here in Belize. How do we, your data collectors, ensure that they're not being, per se, deceived in terms of the cost of a good on the shelf, which may be gouged and not the actual inflated price? And of course, they inflate their prices, but illegally doing so.
Okay, yes, we do collect directly from the stores. We have over 1,000 stores that we collect data from every month and every quarter. And what the price collectors do is they go with their list of very specific items that they're getting prices for, and they try to get the prices directly of what's listed on the shelf. So for the most part, items will have a price that is listed there, and that's what they will collect. At times they have to ask, and so if you're asking whether or not there is a possibility that they might give our price collectors one price, and then when consumers go to purchase they quote them something else, that's possible in a case like that. But for the most part, they are to collect prices that are listed and displayed somewhere.
Now let's talk about something, a final topic, something you brought up, you've been bringing up as well, which is the fact that Belize imports most of what we consume. We import a lot, and we've seen from the data from January to November of 2022, for the almost the entire year with the exception of 1 month, that our importation, the value increased by almost 32.7%. Let's talk about that.
Okay, that's the general trend that we've been seeing, and it's a couple of things. You know, when a couple of years ago, when the pandemic first hit, there was sort of a constriction in terms of the quantity of imports that we were bringing in, and so as economic conditions started to recover, we tended to see imports increasing as well. That corresponded with that we increase the things that we consume. We import the things that we consume. We import the things that we use as inputs into producing things, and so naturally, as the economy grows, we expected to see imports increasing. The other thing is that prices are increasing. So the value of imports also has to do with the price of the things that we are importing. Yes. Right. So if prices are increasing within the countries that we are importing from, we will also see that reflected in our imports bill. On the other hand, the fact that commodity prices have been higher in the world market, that has been a bit of a benefit to our exports, because most of our major exports have been getting higher prices on the world market. So things like sugar, things like marine products, all of those products have been getting higher prices, and we have seen that translate into increases in revenues from those products as well.
So let me ask you one final question. What was the most surprising statistic for you coming out of this latest report?
For me, it would have been the unemployment rate. I think we were expecting a relatively strong economic performance, but that the unemployment rate was so low was a bit surprising. We, in fact, went back and checked and rechecked to make sure that this is not a mistake, that we're not misclassifying people and making that calculation incorrectly. So for me, that would have been, but as you said, it certainly seems to be encouraging news.
Well, Ms. Trejo, Ms. Chavaria, we want to thank you both so much for being on set with us. Thank you for the amazing and most important work that you both do in keeping the nation informed on these stats that we need to carry out our daily lives and daily activities. So, in fact, before you leave, we need to just ask for an update on the census. Where are we with that, and when do we expect to see some data coming out of the census?
We are on the very tail end of it. We are wrapping up the remaining households in Belize City. We expect to have that completed by the end of next week. In terms of data, we are still targeting the end of June to have some preliminary results. So what we are looking at internally is what we can do to speed up and boost up our data processing capacities, so that even though we have had these delays, we can still have something to share with the public at the end of June. So that is where we're at right now.
And we can expect a press conference at that time?
Yes.
All right, well, we'll definitely have that conversation when that time comes around, okay?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So with that, we'll take another break, and when we come back, we'll take you to church with our second segment. So you don't miss that one. Stay tuned.
Technology is ubiquitous, and it's transforming how, when, and where we work. Fulltech Systems is placing award-winning devices in the hands of information workers, allowing them to work without compromise in a world without wires, to innovate, create, and to maximize productivity anytime, anywhere, satisfying the needs of the desk-centric remote and field worker and every other worker in between. We are providing the industry's best devices to businesses going through the process of digital transformation. Partner with us today to provide the solutions that will allow your employees to work effectively and efficiently to enhance your customer's experience. Full-Tech Systems, your technology center, where you'll come for the price, but stay for the service.
Get your body sculpted with gym equipment and accessories from Belize. Quality and savings.
Galenia Hospital, located in Cancun, Mexico's premier tourism destination, is a state-of-the-art healthcare facility that provides highly specialized medical services. We are Quintana Roo's biggest private hospital with board-certified doctors and staff. Some of our services include Cath Lab, Adult Intensive Care Unit, Neonatal Intensive Care Unit, emergency rooms, operating theaters, ambulance services, and more. We are a medically accredited hospital by JCI, Accreditation Canada International, and General Health Council, providing extraordinary care in every specialty, from our cardiology department to our neurology center. We are focused on treating the entire person, body, mind, and spirit. Contact us at medicaltourism@hospitalgalenia.com or visit our website at www.hospitalgalenia.com. Come to Galenia Hospital in Cancun for a truly personal medical care experience.
You could still come over or you could watch Ali movie or something.
Oh my God, I can't believe this happened. Under the bed or in the closet, which one?
I got 3 boys. I need them to be better men than me. I mean, better men than we.
Please don't go wind up.
Who has stopped me? Hello? Who has stopped me? Which one I want to?
For We Family Season 2 begins January 26th at 8 p.m. on Channel 5 and on News 5 Live's Facebook page. Brought to you by the National Commission for Families and Children in collaboration with the National Parenting Task Force and UNICEF.
All right, and we are back for our second conversation, and we are joined this morning to bless us, bless up the set by none other than Pastor Matt Carricker.
You got it.
Good morning.
I got it. Carricker.
Both.
All right. And so, Pastor, you're here to tell us all about your book, Giving Christianity Back to Agape Love. I think it's interesting because it's not often that we have conversations surrounding Christianity here on this set, just to be quite honest about that. And so, one, this is a breath of fresh air for us, for our viewers, but also, two, the topic of your book, the headline is, it speaks to giving Christianity back to agape love. Isn't Christianity in a whole about love and agape love? Isn't that the foundation and the basis of Christianity?
Yeah.
Why do we have to give it back to that?
Well, that's a great question. In the US, there was a study about 15 years ago that most of the young people outside the church think that Christians are hypocritical, judgmental, out of touch with the reality, all these things. And so even though love is the foundation, every so often, there are many church and religious scholars that say every so often, about maybe every 500 years, the church moves so far away from that core message of Jesus that it says it becomes like this carapace, like a hard shell that has to be shattered in order for renewal and new growth to occur. So that was like the Reformation 500 years ago was like, okay, we need to change things in the church because we moved so far away from that message of love, and it's become so much more about beliefs and doctrine and dogma. And when you look at Jesus' life, he had the strongest words for those religious authorities that got too attached to their beliefs and their doctrine and the dogma that they were hurting other people, and they weren't in alignment with love.
So I just wanted to, before we delve a bit deeper into the book, I wanted to get a bit about who you are.
Yeah.
You know, we're watching, and we want to know who's Pastor Martin. What's your connection with Belize? What are you doing here?
Yes, that's a great question.
There you go.
I just went to talk with somebody outside who I think went to City Vernon while I was a teacher there from 2001 to 2003. I was a teacher of religious studies, physical education. I was coaching, so I was here for those 2 years. I was going to Open Door Believers Chapel. I was also going to St. Martin's because I was a Jesuit volunteer, and it's a Jesuit parish. So I was involved in a lot of religion. I ended up meeting my wife, Latoya, when I was here.
A Belizean?
A Belizean, yes. So she moved up soon after that to the States, and you know, we've been married 17 years now. Now we have a little 2-year-old toddler who's here visiting Belize with us. So, you know, and then right after I left Belize in 2003, not right after, but soon after, I went to seminary for 4 years and then have been in ministry ever since.
Wow.
So what it sounds like is you've given your life to the Christian faith, but Belize is also a very big part of who you are.
Yeah, exactly. Belize, the part of me, you know.
Yes, man.
Yeah,
right.
even though you're not born there, you're not fan.
Yes.
You know, if you're born there, you're born there. But if you're not born there, you're still part.
Well, sometimes Latoya's family call on the phone, and if they don't know me, they just think I'm Brad Creole, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like when you walked in, I was not expecting that accent
You
at
picked
all.
up that accent from visits or from your wife?
Well, no, I'm gonna pick up Creole from before I meet Latoya, but you have to get past that stage where everybody laugh at you.
Yeah.
Because everybody say white man that talk Creole, the two don't go
You're
together.
definitely not at the laughing stage anymore.
Yeah.
He's like, he's a Creole person.
I'm only laughing because I'm shocked. But you know, apart from that, you're here to talk to us, and I appreciate you giving us the background so we could have that connection, you know, so we could vibe and realize that Matthew is family as much as you're from the U.S. But we're here to talk about your book. I love the introduction that you gave about straying away from that foundation. So let's talk about how the book presents this new paradigm for being the church together. And when we speak of being the church together, what is it that we're speaking of?
It's a great question. Well, I have a whole chapter on belief versus embodiment. And belief, you know, Christianity has had a strange relationship with belief. In a sense, belief is very important because your beliefs determine your behavior. But oftentimes, our beliefs have been a little bit too fear-based, you might say. And so this new paradigm that I speak of is really moving away from belief as the foundation to love as the foundation. Because when Jesus was asked, you know, what's the greatest commandment? He said, well, 3 things. Love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. So love God, love neighbor, love yourself. And to the extent that we've moved away from that, and our beliefs, you know, when Jesus was railing up about all the beliefs of the Pharisees and the Sadducees, is because the beliefs had gotten more scarcity-based or fear-based. And so in the book, I explore all these beliefs that from my perspective, and after years of reflection, have become more fear-based than love-based. And so the question I posit in that book is, you know, let our churches do some self-reflection and examination. Are your beliefs aligned with love? Because that's Jesus' criterion. If they're not aligned with love, get rid of them.
Yeah.
And so love, agape love, is the foundation. Agape is unconditional love. And our task as Christian communities is to embody love, right? We just came out of Christmas time. That's what we call the incarnation. The incarnation is that God became flesh and dwelt among us. If our faith, if our love doesn't become flesh, it doesn't have much power. That's what the famous scripture from 1 Corinthians 13 talks about, the one that's used in all the weddings. You know, it says if you have all these great gifts and you can speak eloquently and do all these things, but you don't have love, it says you're what, a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. It doesn't mean anything if you have all these gifts but you don't have love. So that's really the new paradigm, is love and embodying love. And it's not that our beliefs aren't important, but that our beliefs should align with love first and foremost.
I want to touch on what you said, that your book outlines what a lot of Christianity and religious beliefs are surrounded by right now, which is fear. How do you break that down in the book?
It's a great question. Well, one of my favorite scriptures is in 1 John chapter 4, which says, perfect love casts out fear. Right? And so sometimes the spiritual journey might start out with fear. You know, there's scriptures that say, from the Psalms that say, you know, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
Yeah.
That might be the beginning of wisdom, but it's not the end of wisdom. And so our spiritual journey is always moving towards love. And so, you know, so the first 4 chapters in the book are building that foundation of agape love, and I call it oneness, in the sense that we're all one with each other. But the next 8 chapters are talking about these different 8 beliefs, and it's not exclusive, but, you know, so like original sin, Jesus, God, atonement theology, homosexuality, pluralism, what it means to be a Christian in a world of many faiths, that ways that our beliefs have become more hurtful to others as opposed to aligned with love. And so then the last 3 chapters are talking about the way forward. It talks about death and resurrection, being born again, being a church of contemplatives in action, and then overcoming the ego. So that's the trajectory.
So as we talk about agape love and being the church together, where do we begin in displaying this agape love that we talk about? Is it a collective responsibility or a responsibility on the individual level? And how great of and that's a part of the question, but also how great of a challenge is it to display agape love? Because, you know, there are some people out there that are difficult to love. Not only that, but sometimes we take a hard line as Christians on certain topics, on certain issues. Oh, you smoke weed? You can't come in at this church. You can't congregate with we. You smell because you're homeless, so you can't come in here. Oh, you're not a homosexual, or you have different beliefs about sexuality, so you can't be involved in this congregation. And I only raise those issues because when you speak about agape love, you say it's unconditional, and these are conditions. So whose responsibility is it? Is it a collective, personal responsibility? And let's be real. Let's talk about the difficulty, the challenge of going past our bias to show biases to display agape love.
Great question. For me, it's both and. It's not either or. It's not only individual or only collective. It's a both and. But it starts from within, right? It's like, you know, I love that metaphor of like, if you squeeze an orange, what's going to come out?
Orange juice.
Orange juice, right? So what we have inside of us is what's going to come out. Like, I have a spiritual practice of not taking things personally from other people, because even though they may direct hatred or judgment towards me, it's not about me. It's what is about inside of them. And so what my task is what I call from Romans 12, be transformed by the renewing of your minds. And so that's the invitation, is to live from the inside out, so that faith is more about a practice than about beliefs. Because if it's more about beliefs, then it's just more of an intellectual thing. But if we think about that great commandment is love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, then when we think about faith as a practice, well, it's about engaging all of ourselves, heart, mind, soul, and strength, which the great commandment invites us to do. And when you think of faith as a practice, like, okay, yeah, it really is very difficult to love some people, and I'm going to fall down. Sometimes I'm going to fall short. That's part of the journey too. But that be patient with ourselves, be gentle with ourselves, just like God is patient with us and gentle with us. Like, okay, I'm harder on myself than anybody, but like, okay, it's all right. Like, God forgives me, I can forgive myself. And, you know, I fell short of loving my neighbor today, but tomorrow I'm going to try again.
You're bold enough to have a topic or have a chapter on homosexuality.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm only again bringing it up because you have it in your book.
Yeah.
What Jesus said. What does Jesus say? What is it that this chapter is talking about? It's chapter 9.
Yeah. So it's funny, the very first page of that chapter says, this is what Jesus said about homosexuality.
Wow.
And then the rest of the page is blank.
Is it?
Because he didn't say anything about homosexuality.
Wow, I look forward to reading that book.
Let me
so,
see.
you know, most churches' relationship with homosexuality has been...
Wow, please show that to the camera.
Yeah.
No, we have to, you guys have to see that.
Yeah, go ahead, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is...
So, yeah,
this
so
is
Jesus said nothing about homosexuality. And so to me, it's amazing that the relationship most churches have had with homosexuality is either don't ask, don't tell, right? don't tell us, because then, or love the sinner, hate the sin, right? As opposed to, and in this chapter I explore a lot of the scriptures that have been used against homosexuality. And one of the books that I quote most often in that book is called The Bible's Yes to Same-Sex Marriage. And it was written by a Presbyterian, not only pastor, but a seminary professor who used to speak out against same-sex marriage. And he would have all these seminarians coming to him in seminary who were saying, you know, I'm struggling with my sexuality. And anyway, so this part of what I do in that chapter is explore some of the scriptures that people have used to condemn homosexuality, to say that actually it was a whole different context 2,000 years ago, that what we know of today as loving, committed, egalitarian same-sex relationships is not what Paul was speaking of in Romans, or that Leviticus was saying. And most of us don't follow all the rules in Leviticus anyway. We don't you know, say that we should stone somebody to death because they're not obeying their parents. So there's a whole context of scripture that it's important to understand. I have another chapter in that book about the Bible and how we can read the Bible from what I call an evolutionary perspective, where you know, it may have been true 2,000 years ago, like for example with eye for an eye, but the way we understand now through what Jesus said is through the lens of love, which I was referring to earlier.
You know, also you have another chapter here on pluralism, which is it's a trending topic in the world of religion, where we live in a world with many faiths, you know, and it's easy to again shun different faiths, different beliefs, when they seek to interact with us, interact with our community. Speak a bit to what this chapter speaks about in terms of how we navigate a pluralistic world in a manner that displays or embodies this agape love that we speak about.
Such a great question, because for too long, as I've experienced it, Christianity's relationship with people of other religions has been one of three things: superiority, I'm better than you; condemnation, you're going to hell; or conversion, you have to be exactly like me. And so at the beginning of that chapter, I speak about a program that I directed for about 10 years in the States called Interfaith Youth Initiative. It has a different name now, but it was for high school youth of Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, all coming together for a whole week overnight camp and learning about it. We'd go to Shabbat services, we'd go to Muslim Friday prayers, we'd go to Hindu temple, we'd learn about each other's faith as a way of enriching each other's faith. So we're moving past those three: superiority, condemnation, conversion, but how can we learn from each other's faith? And so, you know, I go on to talk about that, you know, tolerance is an okay word. Like, okay, like I tolerate you, but who hopes to be tolerated? Like, it's a good first step, as opposed to like, I'm going to commit violence against you. But how do we move beyond tolerance to like dialogue, and what do we have in common? And even from a mystical stand, in terms of the contemplative religion, that there's so many things that we have in common in terms of meditation and how do we connect to God. So there's so much richness there. And in my 10 years of directing that program, and even in I just retired, so to speak, as the chaplain of Brandeis University. I was there for 9.5 years. You know, it's primarily Jewish students there. I learned so much from the Jewish students in the Jewish community. So there can be so much we learn from one another. And so when we just approach people from other faiths from a perspective of you're going to hell, or I'm better than you, or whatever it is, I think it does us a great service, and it does Jesus a great service, because we never see Jesus doing that. In fact, Jesus said, whoever's not against you is for you. And so we've really, I think, done Jesus a great disservice by just having that as our MO for people of other religions.
Where or when do you think the church lost its way? And I'm not talking about all people or all Christians, lost its way on its path to display or represent the full nature of Jesus?
It's a good question. I don't think there's one instance, but I think one of the instances that I think of the most was in the 4th century, because in those early first couple centuries of Christianity was, you know, you had to be pretty committed, because there was martyrdom and people were being persecuted for their faith. And so it wasn't just the accepted thing to do, and like people should just go to church. There weren't big temples there. We're mostly meeting in people's homes. But when Christianity became the religion of the Roman Empire in the 4th century under Constantine, it became more about beliefs and about like societal expectation. And so it began to move towards those rules and rituals, and church became more about like, okay, I've got to go to a Sunday Mass or a Sunday service, as opposed to living out love. And Jesus says, when he says in the Gospel of John, he says, you will know you are my disciples by, he doesn't say going to church, he says, if you love one another. So that's the criterion of, are we a faithful disciple? It's not like checking a checklist. Okay, I went to church this Sunday. I went to Wednesday prayer meeting. No, it's, do we have love in our hearts? And that's where we're moving away from faith as belief to faith as a practice.
I heard you talking about no one is really harder on us than ourselves.
Yeah.
But I beg to also say that no one is really harder on Christians than other Christians.
Right.
What would be your reaction to that?
I think that's exactly right. It's funny, having been at Brandeis for about 10 years, the same was true within Judaism. They'd say 2 Jews, 3 opinions. And oftentimes among my Jewish friends, rabbis and non-rabbis, there'd be more infighting among my Jewish friends about these different, belief systems. And the same is true in Christianity, because there's such a wide spectrum in Christianity. And, at least our heritage in the Protestant world is that 500 years ago, we broke off from Catholicism. And, ever since, like, if I disagree with you, I'm going to go start my own church.
Yes, that is a common thing.
And so the denomination that I'm part of in the U.S. is called the United Church of Christ, which was actually radically different, because it was 4 denominations that came together, who were separate and came together in 1957 under Jesus' admonition in John 17 that they may all be one. So this sense that there's more that unites us than separates us, and how can we stop just, because there's thousands of different denominations, because we just keep disagreeing with each other and creating more churches, but how can we actually come together realizing that love is the foundation and the essence? So very true, and I hope that we can continue to move in the direction of unity, because that's Paul's invitation with the one body.
So the book, Giving Christianity Back to Agape Love, a new paradigm for being church together. Where can we access a copy if we so desire? And who is this book for?
Great question. Well, I'll answer your first question first. There's a launch this Saturday at 5:30 at Om Shanti Yoga. There will be food and drink for sale afterwards at Martha's Cafe. So people welcome 5:30 to 6:30. I'll have
virgin pina coladas, I imagine.
Yes. So that's your easiest way to quickly get a copy of the book. You can always get it on Amazon or right from the publisher. If you go to my website, achristianyogi.com, you can see all the links to the websites. So that's any place that you can get it. But who is it for? It's for everybody. It's for people, church and non-church. It's a way of how do you connect back to the heart of spirituality and faith.
So we have a request, and I'll put you on the spot right here, because we've been sending out thoughts and prayers for an 11-year-old cancer patient by the name of Shanika Pollard. She's in critical condition. She only found out 3 months ago that she has cancer, and her family, they're praying for something to happen, because the outlook is that that is really bad. There she is, young girl with a long life ahead of her, with the exception of this disease that is just ravaging her life. We want to request that you take a couple seconds and say a prayer for her. Would you do that for us
I
on
would be
set?
happy to. I would be happy to.
Well, you go ahead, Pastor, and we'll be here with you.
All right. Well, let's just take a moment of silence to feel God's still, small voice in our hearts, and to feel that love for Shanika, to know that she is held in the embrace of God, and to send our love and our prayers and our compassion to her, so that we may be God's hands and feet for her, that she might heal as quickly as possible. And we hold her in God's love and hands, knowing that we don't have the control, but we offer to God all the love, and we ask that she continue to be held in that circle of unconditional love, and may we be instruments and vessels of that love in her life, so that she might heal. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pastor Matthew Carricker, his new book, Giving Christianity Back to Agape Love, a new paradigm for being church together, launches this weekend, Saturday at the
5:30 Om Shanti on 4th Street.
5:30 Om Shanti on 4th Street. So you want to head on down there. If you want a copy, if you want to receive some prayers, or maybe just have a word with the pastor, maybe you just want to hear how his Creole is, then you can head on down there on Saturday for that event. Pastor, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate
With that, we'll take another break and we'll be right back with our final segment. 5 minutes with Dee. We'll take more than 5 minutes with her, but that's the name of her show. You don't want to miss that. Stay tuned.
With eCash, bill payment is extremely convenient, and all utility companies accept eCash payments. What's even better? You get to split bills with your roommates, siblings, or whoever you desire. Simply open your eCash app, go to Bill Pay, tap the respective utility company, enter the information, and pay the bill. Then tap the transaction made. Tap Split the bill. Select Evenly. Send the request to who you are splitting the bill with, and get notified when they pay. Talk about making life easy and avoiding confusion. You can split the bill for restaurants, grocery stores, and for any eCash payment you make. To find your next yummy meal, hair treatment, or chill spot, simply open the app and utilize the geolocation service to see nearby businesses that accept eCash. Geolocation and bill payment make life a whole lot easier.
Messi. Off goal! What a goal from Leo Messi! What an incredible strike from Leo Messi! Neymar and Messi is standing over this. Messi. Off goal! What a goal from Leo
Great entertainment stays with you, and we bring you great entertainment. Next Gen, the ultimate digital experience.
Dwayne Moody, Isani Cayetano, Marian Ali, Paul Lopez. Your News 5 Belize teams do whatever it takes. Go wherever they need to go, so you can catch the story wherever you are, whenever you want, on whatever device. Channel 5 Belize on television, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Because news is now everywhere, all the time. And so are we.
Smart introduces Real Unlimited Postpaid Plans, providing customers with unlimited talk, unlimited text, and unlimited data. Now that's a real great deal. With Smart Plus, Share 1 and 2, and Enterprise 1 and 2 plans, you can talk as much as you want, text as much as you want, and for the first time ever in Belize, you can enjoy unlimited data with your postpaid plan. So come in and sign up for an unlimited postpaid plan and enjoy limitless possibilities. In addition, other plans such as the Flex Junior, Choice, and Select have been boosted with a lot more talk, text, and data, providing you with the best value for your budget. Be unlimited with Smart. It's time to power your dollar with Smart.
All right, and we are back for our final conversation. We took you with the stats, we took you to church, and now we're going to take you into a conversation with a young and budding entrepreneur and influencer.
Yes,
we're talking about none other than Diane Janae, who is the founder and host of 5 Minutes with Dee. Good morning.
Good morning. You are looking so beautiful this morning, Diane. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Sabrina. I'm doing good. Excited to be back.
Yeah, she's no stranger to,
yes, that's what we were
Open Your
discussing.
Eyes on Channel 5, you know, because she once worked behind the scenes with the Open Your Eyes morning show. And so Dee is no stranger here. She left us And then she came back and said, I want to be CEO this time, and put me in a chair. But of course, she is CEO of her own world. She's CEO of her show, the 5 Minutes with D. Let's talk about 5 Minutes with D. What's it about?
So 5 Minutes with D is an online talk show that I started in 2020. I've always had a passion for having my own talk show. And so in the pandemic, there was, this opportunity to keep everybody, especially entrepreneurs, connected because we've all been affected economically. So I was like, why not create a video sharing why our small business is important? And then that sparked a conversation with people online, and then they were interested in more content about that. So that's when 5 Minutes with D came about, and now we're heading to season 5.
Season 5 already.
I thought we were at 2.
Oh, wow.
Which is starting Friday. And the show is catered to entrepreneurs or anybody who is interested in wanting to know about that kind of information. We have 3 objectives: to educate, promote, and advocate. So we have content that we share to entrepreneurs that they can apply different theories and concepts to their business. And there is the promotional aspect where small businesses can advertise their products and services, or even share who they are, the face behind the business. And advocate, we want to be not only a platform that creates cool content, but we want to be a community for entrepreneurs to have that safe space and to know that we can be that voice that maybe the ones in the back, they're saying, but they're too shy to come out. So we want to be that community that togetherness, bring that togetherness to entrepreneurs.
You are so encouraging. Your ideas are well thought out. You have a vision, you have a goal, you have objectives. Man, I appreciate it so much just hearing you share moments ago all that you're setting out to do. Is it that you've grown? Let's talk a bit about the growth from season 1 to now launching season 5 on Friday, in terms of how the structure, the objectives. Was all of that in place in season 1, or has time gone by and you've kind of put that all together?
Well, season 1 was off the fly.
Was it?
That was like all over the place because I was like just uploading videos almost any time of the week when I felt inspired. And when I knew that it would grow and I wanted continuity. So as I continued creating videos, I started to think of ways in which I can make the show more polished, make the inspirations more fine-tuned into well thought out concepts and episodes. And as the show progressed, and I think to viewers who have been watching since the beginning, they are growing with me because they can see from the quality of the video, the quality of editing, the way that I speak, and all of that you see from the beginning to now Friday. You will see how much the show have grown since season 4. You will see a complete difference. I've brought my sisters on board, Keisha and Christy, because it was getting a little bit, like a full-blown production, which it is now. Having small businesses be able to select how they want to bring across their products, how we think about the different educational topics we want to share, which is more relevant, what do entrepreneurs want to know. So it's a whole process. It's a whole, like I said, production. I think guests who have been on the show can speak for their experience.
Diani, you represent an era where everyone just got extremely innovative in a time where we were only sitting in our homes and we had nothing really to do but to quarantine. So we had to get creative and find other ways to monetize as well. And that's what you have done with this business. Talk to us about, one, I want to touch on how you have created this business from your cell phone and to now where you are offering packages to small businesses as well to promote their business.
Yes. So when I started the show, it was more so to push and to create that awareness and to, build the brand. So there was no real business behind it, no kind of profit, nothing. So it was all from me pouring out to everyone. And now since we've reached this point where the show is getting bigger, it's like, okay, now we have to think of ways in which we can still, be, you would say more, we will still can be affordable and still be, very conscious of, the recovery of businesses, but also for us to grow the production of the show. So now we've started creating packages, which still is like, does not create any additional expense column in your spreadsheet, but it's giving business an opportunity to get quality, and that's the main goal behind.
And what are the things that you offer in your packages?
Okay, so we've created 6 different ways. It was only 3 ways at first, but we fine-tuned it and narrowed it down to 6 different ways. And we have from 30 seconds to 45 seconds adding the show. We have 15 to 20 if you just want to share like a flyer of a pop-up shop or sale or whatever small thing coming up. We have a business review where you get a whole episode just to talk about your business, what you offer, and for us to kind of share firsthand how it is and, give customers or potential customers an insider of, is it worth it, is it not? But with that, we are all about positivity, so businesses don't have to feel anxious about any bad rap. We don't represent that.
Giving a bad review.
Yeah, we don't. Everything is constructive and positive. And then there is the collaboration where sometimes we invite people on the show, or sometimes businesses do product reviews, but they want to share that as well on their platform. So now, since there's a feature for 2 pages to share 1 post, we offer that so you can have 5 minutes with D on your page as well.
What's the format of the shows, the episodes? And when you say 5 minutes with D, do you stick to 5 minutes?
I say anything that is not 6 minutes and more, it's still 5 minutes.
She's like, that's the loophole.
Yeah. So what's the format? Like when you tune in, what can you expect?
Okay, so the format of the show, there's always the intro, and there's one iconic intro. Hey there, welcome to 5 Minutes with D. I'm Diana Janae. That's like the beginning.
Yeah.
And then I always give like what we're gonna talk about in that intro. And then when I say let's get straight into it, we're going to get into the meat of the topic or the interview. And then there's the outro. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Speak about the confidence that you've had to grow and adapt over the last 4 seasons, and how difficult that was, or have you always found yourself to be a very outspoken and not camera shy?
Well, like I've kind of mentioned earlier in the conversation, I've always wanted to have my own talk show. I grew up watching like Oprah, the Tyra show, Ellen show. So I've always wanted to have my own talk show, maybe on the TV one day.
Yeah.
And so when, like I said, in 2020, I was like, this is like the opportunity. Maybe this is where I need to start. And I've always had that confidence, but with social media and presenting yourself with all the different, maybe limitations and, social issues and what's not, you kind of have to build a different kind of confidence, not just knowing your worth and knowing what you want to do, but you have to have a confidence for, dealing with others and how to handle opinions and constructive criticism. So as the show progressed and people start to know about it and share about it, I had to hone those, skills like being more open-minded, not saying I wasn't, being, more patient, and it improved my people speaking skills. Like I always like talking to people, but having to know how to do it in a more formal structure for an interview, so something like this, you guys, you had to know how to speak to a guest instead of speaking to a friend.
Right.
So something like that.
Right.
How frequently do you produce videos?
Okay, so every season, with the exception of season 1, is 10 episodes. And it goes for a span of like 3 months. And then we take that break so that we can plan again. And then another 3 months, that would be another 10 episodes. So,
Dee, I'll tell you, you are a superstar in the making. You are Belize's future when it comes to television, when it comes to hosting. And I want to encourage you to keep it up and to keep it going. 5 seasons, 10 seasons. You're Belize's next Oprah. And you're going to be giving away everything to everybody, just like Oprah.
You get a car.
You know, I'm super encouraged. Who's your inspiration?
I would say my inspiration is everyone around me, especially youths like myself. I think, you know, growing up in an environment and in a space where we are, yes, we have access to all these things, social media, we're able to amplify our voices, but we're still in a space, in a shaky way where, yes, we have that, but we still don't have it. Like, we have this space to have a big voice, but we don't have that voice. And, you know, to see youths who are so talented and to see them trying and striving, and like myself, we're starting from ground zero, most of us, that is what drives me. And it's so heartwarming, and it's a blessing that when I do this show, there's, you know, fellow youths like myself, my peers, they're saying, because of your show, I have the confidence to network with other small businesses. Because of your show, I am able to do X, Y, and Z to help my business. Even those who are older than me, you know, the young at heart, they are big fans. My mom said one of her cousins all the way from Houston is like, oh my God, I see your daughter on TV, and she's mixing me up with my older sister.
Right.
But, you know, she's excited to see the work that is being done by young people.
All right, so 5 Minutes with Dee returns with season 5 on Friday, January 13th at 7 p.m. Tell us where we can watch.
So you can watch on the 5 Minutes with Dee Instagram page at 5 Minutes with Dee, or on YouTube at number 5 Minutes with Dee. So follow and subscribe.
Any thoughts you want to leave our viewers with?
Also, maybe a little insight on what the first episode will be about.
So the first episode will be about how to ace your television interview.
There you go.
So, you know, you're seeing me on this show right now, and maybe you might want to be on this couch. So I'll be sharing a few tips, and there will also be a brochure with that, so that you can get even more insider on how you can be comfortable and do a great job sitting in this chair.
And is dressing the part a part of your advice?
Of course, that's the look from episode 1.
There you go. Beautiful.
Well, you know
Love
what,
it.
Diani, I definitely look forward to that episode. I
Yeah.
hope you do take some clips from this exact interview, because you did absolutely marvelous.
Thank you.
And we look forward to season 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, so that was Dee with 5 Minutes with Dee. We're going to take less than 5 minutes to have a break, and we'll be right back to wrap up. So stay tuned.
Smart introduces Real Unlimited postpaid plans, providing customers with unlimited talk, unlimited text, and unlimited data. Now that's a real great deal. With Smart Plus, Share 1 and 2, and Enterprise 1 and 2 plans, you can talk as much as you want, text as much as you want, and for the first time ever in Belize, you can enjoy unlimited data with your postpaid plan. So come in and sign up for an unlimited postpaid plan and enjoy limitless possibilities. In addition, other plans such as the Flex Junior, Choice, and Select have been boosted with a lot more talk, text, and data, providing you with the best value for your budget. Be unlimited with Smart. It's time to power your dollar with Smart.
The Social Security Board, in collaboration with the Labor Department, takes this opportunity to remind insured persons of the requirements for compensation when on sick leave. Any employee who has worked with an employer for at least 2 months is entitled to 16 working days of sick leave with full pay every year. This is how it works. Upon approval of a sickness or injury benefit claim by SSD, 80% of the employee's weekly insurable earnings is paid as a Social Security benefit, and the difference in the employee's salary is paid by the employer. This is to ensure that the employee does not suffer any loss of wages when ill. After 16 days, compensation for sick leave is paid as a Social Security benefit only. Some conditions apply. This message is brought to you by the Social Security Board and the Labor Department. Social Security Board, safeguarding you, your family, your future.
Hola usuario de eCash, la aplicación eCash está disponible en español. Cambiar el idioma de tu aplicación de eCash de inglés a español es rápido y sencillo. Déjame mostrarte cómo se hace. Primero, abre tu aplicación eCash. Introduce tu PIN. Toca el icono More en la parte inferior de tu pantalla. Selecciona Security. Selecciona Language. Y luego selecciona Spanish. Vuelve a introducir tu PIN y ya está. Tu aplicación de eCash está ahora en español y puedes seguir disfrutando de tu cartera digital eCash. La aplicación eCash de Belize Bank te hace la vida más fácil.
Wrap up, we want to thank all our viewers for staying tuned with us and for joining our show this morning, for staying tuned. It's been a lovely show.
It totally has been, Paul. I definitely enjoyed the segment with the Statistical Institute of Belize. We were able to get some information on the unemployment rate, the GDP rate, inflation, which was a hot topic from the start of COVID, to fuel prices, and just really knowing what the status of our economy currently is. We definitely got some positive news on the employment rate. We definitely did not think that we would perform that well. And yeah, what were your thoughts on that segment?
I appreciated the statistics. You know, we've been hearing it. We've been hearing it. The Britannia administration, they've been heralding reports that the economy is rebounding.
Yeah.
That things are heading back to where we were before COVID. And to come sit on this set and hear from the experts and statistics, because the numbers don't lie, you know.
Yeah.
To come and to see that what they've been saying as the politicians aligns with what the statistics says is a breath of fresh air. Now, mind you, inflation is kicking our beep a whole lot right now. Belizeans across the country are feeling the pinch with the increase in goods, increase in services, increase in transport, increase in food. All of this has been affecting us. And so now, as the politicians, as the government, it's for them to find a way to strike a balance so that as Belizeans, we can find a way to survive and stretch with dollar. But I truly appreciated the insight from SIB. And then, of course, in our second conversation, we want to say a huge thank you to Pastor Matt, whose new book, Giving Christianity Back to Agape Love, will be launched this weekend here in Belize City. So we want to thank him for that. And then, of course, in our final conversation.
Yes, we had Miss Deannie Janae with us talking about 5 Minutes with Dee and her season 5 premiering this Friday, I believe. She said it was this Friday. I just absolutely love seeing young people really taking a risk and showing that they have a passion and they're not afraid to get up and do what they really are passionate about. And Deannie is one of those persons. I'm absolutely proud of her. You can look forward to her first episode on how to ace an interview. That was great.
Right. And of course, these are the types of conversations we have here If there's any conversation that you have any questions or thoughts or concerns about, you can drop us a line. First, we have our email, I believe, which is at oye@channel5belize.com. And we also have our Facebook.
At facebook.com.
At Open Your Eyes BZ. I'm sorry. They're laughing at me because I'm not too familiar with our online services. And also we have our Instagram, which is at OIE Belize. Right? And so those are where you can drop us a line and keep in contact with us, where we come on set and you join us to open your eyes and start your morning right. But until next time, Belize, stay safe, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your hearts open.
Until tomorrow, goodbye.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.